Well, hello there, and good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to call stereotypes. Now, in my teaching, this stereotypes fits in as a subpoint under organizing in the perception lecture, which I ain't even there yet, but I just wanted to talk about stereotypes today. And so I probably just put this one in there when I get there or whatever. I show it to people that way. You know what I'm saying? Now, I want you to know that a stereotype is a generalized belief or set of beliefs that is associated with a category in a particular organizational system. Now, everybody stereotypes, that is, they generalize certain things about certain other things. Doesn't mean it's good, but we all do it because it gets us through life without having to think a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? Like you can stereotype your political parties, or you can stereotype men or women. It ain't good. I'm just saying though, it happens, right? Now, sometimes you got yourself a stereotype and you're using it, and somebody you be talking to, like maybe you're like, oh man, da 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 da, and one of your friends is like, well, not all men. And you'd be like, well, do you got an example to the contrary? And they give you an example to the contrary. Then you got to change your belief. You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, not all men, most men. Well, but then once you're using most and you ain't using all, then you ain't in stereotype land anymore, because you ain't saying all. Because that stereotype thing is that generalization is like you forcing it on the whole category of people's. People's is when it's the worst, but you can force a stereotype on a cat too. Like I got a big old fat cat, a Garfield-like cat. Now, if you've ever read the cartoon strip Garfield, that stereotypical striped yellow cat, I got one of them. One day I pick him up and then they have to take me to the hospital, but then you'll see. And then you'll see. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I have been getting a little bit of pushback, not pushback, but a little bit of lack of excitement from my friends. One of my best friends, she took one look at me and my tooth, and she just swiped on by. She don't even want to listen to what I have to say, because what I look like and what I sound like is so triggering for her. She don't even want any part of it. And I'm like, but ain't that a stereotype, since we all knows it's me anyway? You let your stereotype get in the way of me talking to you. And that's kind of funny to me. Man, I think sometimes well, I'm not going to talk about that because you never know. But I think sometimes people just turns me off. And I'm like, well, I don't think you got the jokes to that message. Because they didn't respond in the way that the end of the message would have asked, whatevers. Anyway, I think I'm triggering, right? And I look at myself and I'm like, what about me is triggering? Is it the hat? Nah, I don't think it's the hat. People can wear these hat, right? Is it the tooth? Right? It might be the tooth. Because well, there's the one part of it that you can possibly have two missing teeth if you think about it, right? Because it moves back and forth sometimes. Some of that has to do with me being dyslexic, and some of it has to do with me just missing two front teeth. And I sometimes get the insert in wrong, you know. I do have two, but then it's hard to differentiate me from the other me. You know what I'm saying? And I want you to be able to differentiate me from me, because this is me. Right, it ain't me. Yeah. Well, you know, right? And I was thinking about this the other day, and I've also been doing some self-help, and they talks about how you got inner selves and outer selves. This is kind of like my inner self, excepting I never did miss my teeth. But once upon a time, I was born with a cleft lip. Did I talk about this already? I feel like I talked about this. I don't want to return to it. But what I'm saying is, you're listening to me when you're listening to me. And when you're listening to me, you're listening to a very refined me. But we're both me, right? So you should listen to me, because it's just on my looks that you turning me off, when based on my looks and sound. Okay, I give you and sound. You turning me off. I think it's a trigger for you, and I'm wondering what others people's you ain't listening to too. Like just because I sound funny Does that mean that I've lost my education? Does that mean I ain't recognizing my education? Does that mean that I'm participating in a speech community to which you have very little experience? And yet there you is listening to me, ain't you? Right? And that could still very well be effective communication without having to be grammatically correct. It is a little bit on that edutainment scene, but I'm just saying, stereotypes, they go all every which way. You know what I'm saying? It's just an exaggerated category in a particular categorization system. Now, the healthy categories, when you start getting, information to the contrary on them, you start splitting them out and you make new categories and subcategories and whatnot, because that's what you got to do to like refine your view of the world and your ability to interpret it and all that kind of shit. I mean, stuff. I hate to say shit. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? But in my speech community, they would understand that I meant him stuff, right? Wouldn't y'all? Yeah, I know you would. She doesn't say very many swear words when she's actually teaching, but here in the kitchen, she could get a little fiery. Fiery. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, thank you for stopping in and enjoying this discussion of stereotypes. You might have a stereotype of somebody that has a funny tooth and not being able to eat fruit very well, and I am here to potentially support or dispel that particular stereotype with my new fruit. Now, this new fruit is a very exciting new fruit. Thought I'd just introduce that here at the end. This is called lemon plum, and I got it from the store today, and I still got times to eat. So here we go. Don't taste like lemons at all. Now, I ain't sure what that stereotype's gonna be, but you work on it for me, okay? I eat for you again some other time. Now, Harper wanted me to make sure that you know that stereotypes can be problematic when in conversations you're using the stereotype instead of the individual in front of you, right? Because there's going to be a whole lot of individual variation in people's, and you got to listen to them to know what them variations are. You can't just make them assumptions. The assumptions AS. That makes an AS out of you and me. That's kind of fun, huh? Right? Well, I wanted to give you this little tip, or Harper wanted to give. Well, one of us did. Anyway, uh, anytime you're taking a physical characteristic over which people have no control, and you're using that physical characteristic to determine a voluntary behavior on the part of the person because they like belong to a group that shares that physical characteristic, you're in dangerous stereotype land. I just want to say that ain't a good place to be, because you ain't looking at the individual, you're looking at the category. You really do want to think about the individual, because that's going to produce your best intercultural communication results. Wait, intercultural communication. Hell, it all comes down to interpersonal, don't it? It really does. All right, now that's all I'm telling you on this little snippet here. Yeah. I'll chat you later, all right? You guys have a great day.